we have talked about, actually we have not talked about this, but we've been meaning to talk about the resonance that's associated with sites like this.
Right.
It's a huge component, and I kept asking myself, I was like, where is that other headstone? That other headstone has to, I can't imagine what it sounds like and what happened when all three of those were there, if there was one. I don't know, but it sure seems like there was one. Hey, Dark Web Theologians, how you guys doing? Guys, we realize sometimes you want to vibe with us, you want to hear what we have to say, you want to hear about our lives and everything, but not everyone is like that. Some of you guys would rather just hear the info, and you know what? Both ways are totally fine. If you would like to hear the info only, we have timestamped this entire podcast. If you would like to jump to a particular spot, you can do that too. However, if you look and you're listening on Spotify, below the podcast itself is actually a transcript that you can actually go and scroll through. So if you guys would just like the info, feel free to hop around wherever you want. If you just want small excerpts or, a small riff or whatever, go and enjoy that. If not, hang around with us. God bless, guys.
Sounds like a rather large operation. How are we going to keep this secret?
We'll do what the Egyptians did. Bury the architects inside the pyramid.
My experts tell me it's a pyramid.
The pyramids have survived for thousands of years.
Nowhere else are they equaled.
See, you are wrong about the gods, Suhat. They do answer.
Get away from the bend. Do you remember the pyramid?
Don't remind me.
The pyramid?
Enra!
No, Enra is the eye at the top of the pyramid. I'm talking about the bottom of the pyramid.
Oh, yeah?
Well, those at the bottom of the pyramid in this world are kept in total ignorance of what those at the top of the pyramid are achieving. Enra.
Where are you on the pyramid?
Good evening in this new year.
Happy New Year, everybody.
Theologians. Howdy, guys. It is wonderful to be back with you guys. Shelley and I have had a wonderful hiatus, but we frankly
nice.
missed our it was the love-hate thing. Like, I
It
wanted to be
was.
gone, but I also didn't want to be gone. So
Right.
here we are back again, guys. Shell, how you doing? What's up? What are we thinking about? What's going on?
I am good. I can't believe it's been like a whole month since we have
It's been
done
more.
this. At least in front of a rolling camera.
Almost 2 months.
The reality is we didn't lose touch. We talk with each other all the time. So probably because we're friends.
Well, maybe.
Maybe perhaps just
Perhaps. Maybe.
possibly. I don't know, but the same old. Abby had a birthday. It was wonderful. I'm still in love with my grandson. He's great. We're taking him to play in the snow this weekend.
You're going to noisy, ruidoso.
We are going to noisy. We're going to go and visit snow because I like living where the snow does not live.
You can go to the snow.
That's what I want to do. I might wash my hair in snow.
If anybody can name in the comments what that song is actually supposed to be, I will give you a big, huge shout out. You probably having to read off like 6 people. Okay, 7. All right. I'm not
So I went nowhere over break. Oh, I went to Phoenix. No, did I go to Phoenix? My mom and sister came here for Abby's birthday. No, I'm like, what the heck did I do?
Who am I?
We did not leave. Yeah, who are you?
You're an explorer.
New phone, who dis?
New phone, who dis?
I did not leave the country, unlike somebody named Richard Lee.
I did not stay in the country, unlike someone named Shelley Aleman.
That is true.
a more Hispanic last name than I do.
I know.
But yeah, well, you
I
guys
have a more Hispanic husband than you do.
it's true. I don't have a Hispanic husband or
I
a husband
know.
at all for that matter. So
Notice I didn't say spouse because we both have Hispanic
yes,
spouses.
you definitely win on the Hispanic husband front. I'm happy to
I
lose
got
that
there
one,
first.
frankly. Um,
Husbands
you
are
guys,
hard. You don't want one, trust
no,
me.
well, no. I mean, I just don't want a husband at all. So there's that.
I get it.
You good, good. Thank God.
Oh, we're starting off with some levity.
No left feet here, guys. Yes, you guys will probably very well know that I was out of the country in Mexico City, La Ciudad de Mexico. It is no longer called DF or DF, Federal District. They only go by Ciudad de Mexico, and actually learned why. I didn't know why they changed it, but they changed Ciudad de Mexico to an actual state, so it actually acquires its own funds and has its own government and all that stuff, which is actually kind of cool. It didn't really change a whole lot, just that it kind
So,
of
like Washington, D.C.
yes, as its own state, correct?
Interesting.
Yeah.
Is
It
it
was
the
actually
capital
is
of Mexico?
Mexico City the capital? Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, I assumed, but I could have been totally wrong. I mean, it could have been, I don't
Yeah.
know, Tijuana for all I know.
It definitely is not Tijuana. Usually the capital city's right on the border of some other country.
The border of California.
California. Well, I'll leave that one alone.
Right.
That's an interesting area, I'm sure. Hey, you know what? Our buddy Holly, tell us about it. I'm sure you have some cool information that you can give us. You have a ton of
Oh,
information.
she always does. It's true.
But yes, I was out of the country, and this episode has a lot to do with that. I will be adding in a lot of stuff as we speak, but also I'll probably be putting some stuff in to kind of separate and chop up this Cholula episode.
Hold on. I need to do an announcement.
Oh, go ahead, please, by all means.
Boys and girls, back in the days before phones that resided in your pockets or lived in your hands, this is more accurate, people had these things called cameras. I know you think a camera is just an app in your phone, but cameras are a real thing. And they would go, like my grandparents stuff, they would go on vacations and they would use the camera and they would take pictures and then they would get them and they'd get them on these little slides and then they'd make everybody come over and eat fondue and watch their slideshow.
Shelly, you're talking
We're going to do that with Ricky today.
Yes.
We get to have a good old-fashioned slideshow.
I thought you were really gonna I was like, is she really explaining cameras to our viewership? Our viewership knows they're kind of within our age group. I mean, I'm sure that they're probably
No, just the whole because you guys can't see it, but I can see. Go away, cat. The slides that Rick has set up already, and I already got to see them because I'm his friend and I'm cool like that.
And you get to see more photos than they're going to see. So there's that.
Right. But it just made me think we're having a slideshow.
Everybody come over. We're going to set up the projector and
have some fondue.
So anyway, that is how this episode is going to roll. We are titling this episode Hunting Quetzalcoatl because that is the theme, as a matter of fact. And that really kind of ties it all together, which we will get into shortly. But I do want to give some quick announcements. Guys, we, as you will know, guys, we still have our stickers on sale. And no one seems super excited about it. I am, but no one else does. That's okay. Stickers are,
really
actually
cool.
Look at that. I flicked it. That was really impressive. Transhuman sticker. We still have to have a transhuman episode, which we are coming up upon. It's almost going to be necessary.
Man, it'll probably be a series.
All the other three are self-titled, but they're just a little bit different. If you guys would like one, hit me up. You can go to our store on Facebook. You can go on TikTok. You can go on our solo.to/the CTDW, which is down right there.
Right under me.
There it is. Over there. There you go. Run into Shelly. That's an easier way to do it. So head over there, pick one up, help us out, guys. That would really, really promote us well. And honestly, like, you guys are the best promotion for anyone. Like, there's no better way to promote our show than you guys proselytizing to other people, telling them. And honestly, we're learning. Like, I have learned that this podcast is a proselytizing opportunity for me. I can really share the gospel with this thing. And I share the gospel in ways that I probably couldn't otherwise. People are very interested whenever you say that you do a podcast. And then when we talk about what we do, people are like, what?
Right?
That's even cooler. Guys, I also do want to let you know, please, 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 if you are interested, even if you already are signed up with us and you just want to make or you're not signed up with us for that matter, and you just want to make a donation, guys, we have this Bible. This is a smaller version. I believe it's a smaller version, and it actually doesn't have everything in it, but it is a, what will we call it? An underground Bible. That's what it is in Spanish. La Biblia Subterranea. By the time this guy drops, we will already have released the episode with Miguel, which is, he is a metalhead pastor in Mexico City, and he really is in all the scene, the goth scene, the metal scene, the punk scene. He's really kind of just in that whole atmosphere. There's a place called El Chopo downtown in Mexico City. And that's really, like, it's become a phenomenon in the past, goodness, I don't know, 20, 30 years, where people really just kind of come and sort of just are able to have an exchange, just really share a cultural spot together. It's kind of like a punk or a metal market. I mean, that's really what it is. And they have a place there where they share the gospel, I think, like every Saturday, honestly. Like, they're out there every Saturday sharing the gospel with people. And there are, like, full-on conversions, full-on, like, deliverances that happen in the Chopo, like, straight up. So it's legit. Guys, if you're interested, please, guys, this is an awesome Bible, and I really want to talk a little bit about it. It's not in this one in particular. Thank you, Miguel. Muchas gracias, Miguel, por darme esta Biblia para promocionarte. Thank you, Miguel, for giving me this Bible to be able to help promote you. And your ministry, man. It's a ministry. It's a church, guys. It is a church. In this one, I think that's probably why I got away with being able to take this one. It's just a regular Bible. I won't give away all the explanation, but in the normal Bibles and the ones he gives out, inside the very opening here is a bunch of testimonies from metalheads, rockers, punks that have given their life to Christ, that are now followers of Christ, and give their testimony about their faith, about how they came to their faith. It's a really, really cool tool. It's a really awesome evangelizing tool, and people are drawn into it because they see it and they're like, "What's that?" And then a lot of them are like, "Is that a satanic Bible?" And he always goes, "No, man, it's the best Bible around,
The
bro.
real deal, dude.
The real deal." And that's actually his catchphrase. So, man, yeah, if you guys would like to donate, get a hold of myself or Shelly, either one of us. We can point you in the right direction. Even if you don't, you don't follow us, you're not a subscriber, that's fine. Also, anything you guys subscribe with this month and next month, which is January, February, if you're already subscribed, your entire portion that you're giving us is going directly to Miguel and his church for whatever he needs for his ministry, really for these Bibles in general. But if you sign up with us, obviously that money is also going to Miguel. You can also, like I said, give a donation. Shelly and I are giving from our own fund $100 to send over to him, along with January and February's donations, just because, man, I want to share the gospel, and he does it in such a unique way. You guys will absolutely love it. Shell hasn't even had a chance to see the thing yet because it's not translated yet. So,
I mean, I've seen other interviews with Pastor Miguel, and his heart is for Jesus. Like, it's a beautiful thing.
It's a powerful testimony too, man. Which he gets. He defends himself pretty well. He does all right in English, but I really wanted him to be able to kind of let loose, and so that whole episode is going to be in Spanish with Spanish subtitles, and then we're going to release an audio version where you can just listen to the back and forth in English. So shout out to my brother-in-law Sam. Thanks for helping me out, buddy. He's the one that's been working on that, guys. So that's why we haven't released that episode yet. It's going to come out first for all of our behind the paywall subscribers so that they can watch it, and it'll just be subtitled because I haven't had a chance to edit all the stuff. As soon as I get a chance to, though, it'll drop for everybody all at the same time too. So yeah, that's a lot. It's a
Very
mouthful.
exciting.
It's
It
important
is, but it's important. Yep.
So
absolutely.
I will be including a blurb about that here in this podcast, and you guys may notice a different format if you're watching this one. I'm working on changing our format up and getting our movement a little less rigid, a little more. I don't want to be overproduced, but I also don't want to be underproduced. So there's that too. Yeah, that's all I have to say about that. Shell, do you want to share anything else that I may have missed, or just
I have
anything?
a very noisy puppy under my desk, y'all. I'm sorry if you end up hearing any of it. He is wired for sound right now, and he's driving the two big dogs nuts.
Big dogs.
I think I showed everybody my cute little French bull terrier that I got for Christmas. Right? I got him. I think I showed him like in our last episode.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure you did. The alien episode. Go check that out.
He's very cute, but he's also very noisy right now. Sorry, y'all. If it's not the cat, it's the bird. If it's not the bird, it's the dog.
The bird. The bird is the worm.
That's what happens when you live in Noah's Ark, also known as my home.
There you go. Well, without further ado, let's go ahead and kick this off. Guys, we are talking about Cholula, which is a very fascinating pyramid. I guess
really good hot sauce.
It's all right. That's not my favorite, honestly. Most gringos like it. That's okay. They got to make their money somehow, right?
Hey, rude.
Well, I'm sorry. I'm partial to Valentina. I mean, you got to.
I also really love my Valentinas. We have so many hot sauces in this house. It's pretty bad.
Yeah.
To the point where, because I work from home, I even have some Louisiana here on my desk. But my husband actually takes Valentinas and tapatio and dehydrates them so that I can put the powder on my popcorn when I make popcorn.
That's cool.
So good. So good. The girls at work are always like, "Where's your tapatina sauce, Shell?"
Tapatina.
Yeah,
actually,
we're like,
"Where's your tapatina sauce?" Going El Paso, right?
You're gonna get me in trouble with my friends.
Well, I'm a Mexican. I can say that. They wouldn't say Cholula. They would say Cholula. It's Cholula. So.
Just like we say Shuko.
Shuko town.
Shuko town.
So we are talking about Cholula, which is a very fascinating pyramid. It is the largest landmass occupying pyramid in the world. And there's a good reason for that. It's built structure on top of structure on top of structure, like a Russian doll, basically, or dolls, however you want to say that. And it is located about 2 hours outside of Mexico City, which is where I was staying, which is why these two episodes are centered around Mexico, you might have imagined. I took a vacation and took advantage of my vacation since I was already there. Might as well just go do some research. Why the heck not, right? I got some very, very interesting stuff to talk about today, but I guess we'll start kind of with the basics of the pyramid itself, because that's probably the most important part. Now, I did find out some interesting stuff here. So the pyramid is believed, well, I guess we'll start right there, right? So there are basically three basic periods historically that most historians go with when talking about Latin America, especially Mesoamerica, pre-Hispanic era, and post-Hispanic, and all that good stuff. Excuse me, not post-Hispanic, but pre-Hispanic. And those are lumped into pre-classic, classic, and post-classic, which is pre-classic, we're talking about 1500 BC, all the way almost basically up to 300 BC. Up until 300 AD, Common Era. The classic is considered 380 to 950, and then 950 to 1521, which is the incursion and basically fall of the Mesoamerican Empire, basically. Which is
Rick, I found a really cool.
Ooh,
isn't that neat? So
that is freaking
hold on.
cool.
These are the different things, like the height of the newest tallest hotel in the world. Then there's the
Oh,
shard.
that's freaking cool, dude. I'm glad you found that.
The pyramids, but what I really want to show is right here. This is
Look at
Cholula.
that beast.
See how wide the base is?
Go right up to 10, Shell. Go to 10 and look at the difference between the Pyramid of the Sun in Teotihuacan, which is Mexico City. It's number 10.
Am I down at 10? Sorry.
And then look at the difference between that one and right below it, Cholula.
The Cholula. Yeah, it's beast. Crazy. It's bigger than all of them base-wise. And that's...
The Pyramid of the Sun. Yeah, right there. Okay.
That was Pyramid of the Sun.
So if you look at the very base of that, it's about 100 meters by 100 meters, so it's about 200 meters across. But this kind of middle section on the Great Pyramid of Cholula, go back down to the Great Pyramid. Yeah, there you go. So that middle section there is what was considered the explanada. What do we call that? The Acropolis. Excuse me, I couldn't think of the word. I think that was one of the original Acropolises, and it's actually larger than the base. Which is at one point was the top. It's larger than the base of this Pyramid of the Sun. It's just kind of mind-boggling.
Yeah, it was just, I thought that this was a really great.
Oh, that's awesome.
Way to see
that
all of that.
That's freaking cool.
It's neat.
So there's a lot of interesting stuff about this particular pyramid. It's kind of forgotten in Mexican, actually Mesoamerican history, but it is literally a hidden gem. Pun absolutely intended. The name Cholula actually has various meanings. One of those is like city of refuge or place of refuge, but it also means covered up hill, covered with like dirt, basically. So it's really interesting to this day. If it weren't for the mild, decent amount of excavation that's been done in the area, you would still think it's a hill. You wouldn't even know.
They've been excavating for over 100 years, right?
Yeah. That maybe, yes, I think that's accurate, but I think they kind of took more, got their hands dirty. I think it was back in the 30s. Yeah, goodness. Yeah, it's been 100 years. Holy cow. That's right. I lost track of time. Look at that.
That happens when you get old.
Yeah, it really does. 2000 does not seem that far off, but it's pretty far away. It's 25 years now. So yeah, they have been excavating exactly just about 100 years now. I had mentioned to you guys that there are some underground passages. That is accurate. A lot of those were created, however, for the purpose of uncovering the base of the pyramid. Now, I do want to mention something about the base of the pyramid itself. I happened upon a fellow explorer, I guess we'll call her. I might have a video of her, as a matter of fact. We were chatting, and she had come to the pyramids 6 years previously. I didn't even tell you this, Shell. But she was able to go underneath and check out all the cavernous areas. We weren't able to go because COVID, and then after COVID, they had to do renovations because it was deteriorating underneath.
Was she just in the tunnels, or did she get to go?
She got to go to, I think, like one sub-level. And then they couldn't go any deeper because it's highly unstable. Actually, it's not even like we don't want.
Right? Isn't that why they quit excavating? Is because they just thought everything would collapse.
Well, that's exactly right. Because if they go to the base, and I'll tell you guys all about the base when I think about that later. Actually, what Shelley and I both think. They were afraid that all the upper levels were going to fall in one on top of the other, and they were not going to be able to do anything with it and lose all sorts of, really valuable history, which is totally valid, totally valid. So, excavation stopped, and she informed me, she's like, yeah, well, we don't actually know what the base is. I go, what? She goes, yeah, we don't know what it is. I went, well, you and I don't know what it is, but archaeologists, I'm sure, know what it is. She goes, no. No one knows what it is. We know because we have GPR, right? But that's about it. So, crazy stuff. Maybe it is a megalith at the bottom, or was, right? At the very bare minimum. Shelley and I do.
Well, you know how we've talked before about man building one sacred place on top of another.
Yes, we do. And that, I mean, honestly, that is like the encapsulation of Cholula. Cholula is literally a Russian doll pyramid. It's one on top of the other, and like you were explaining, that's a good point. You know, it's one like whole strata on top of another. It's not like, oh, we're going to kind of build upwards. It's like, we're going to cover the other one. We'll just cover the next one. We'll just cover the next one. And those all have to do with
keep getting bigger and bigger.
And those all have to do with, you know, tribes, different tribes doing that at different times. And it even seems like it might have to do with that 52-year cycle we were talking about, as a matter of fact. I'll get to that in a little bit. It is aligned at 26 degrees north, which is exactly where the winter solstice falls. And as you may guess, just like in Teotihuacan, which is the Mexico City pyramid, I'm just going to start calling it Teotihuacan. You can, you know, if you don't know what that is, go look it up. Teotihuacan is the same way. It has a certain alignment so that when the sun hits it at a particular time, and I think it's also at the solstice, it looks like a serpent's body is running down in the form of shadow, is running down this pyramid. Same is true here with Cholula, except that it's an actual, like, the face of a serpent, which is kind of crazy. Geez, what else can we talk about with this bad boy? The pyramid itself. We do have also on top of the pyramid is a ginormous, well, not ginormous comparatively, right? But a very large Catholic church. San Pedro, I'm going to forget the name off the top of my head.
Our Lady of Remedies.
Our Lady of Remedies. La Dama de los Remedios, I think is what it's called in Spanish. I may be off, but...
Iglesia de Nuestra Señora de los Remedios.
Yeah,
sorry, I'm very bad at Espanol. I'm always butchering it, but I did write it down because I thought it was interesting.
It is important. It is important, and it has to do. I mean, you guys will know that whole play on remedy is a whole thing, and there's probably a history. I'm forgetting about that at the moment, but we'll make do. So, having said that, I think it's probably important for us to, you know, have the discussion kind of almost outright, you know. And I won't mention it too much, you know, because I'm going to be editing some stuff into this podcast. But spiritual gets built on top of spiritual. If you got a spiritual site, you don't put it, you know, you don't waste it. You usually take advantage of it. I would say right now, a lot of sites are hidden, and I think that they're intentionally sometimes hidden and they're not built on so that they don't get used for certain things. And secret societies love to do that kind of crap and build on certain places and not tell anybody that they have any significance. So, but that's a different rabbit hole to get down on a different time. So having said that, let's take a quick look at some of these, just this really crazy imagery within this Catholic Church there, which is San Pedro something or other. I can't remember. Here you go. It is unbelievably ornate.
It's just magnificent.
Yeah, it really is impressive. My kiddo was like, there he is right there. He was like, Dad, this is freaking weird. I'm like, it is freaking
weird. Because we build our churches to take care of the people.
Yeah.
Not to radiate
this is
immense splendor.
My brother-in-law's footage, by the way. Thanks, Sammy. Appreciate you, bro. As you guys can all see, for those of you guys that are just listening, it's just gold decked everywhere.
Gold walls, gold ceilings.
Yeah.
Gold leaf on the gold.
Gold, everything. Good Lord, I can't think of the word.
It's just
everywhere.
amazing. Just adornment everywhere.
Yeah, in typical, European classical Catholic Church. It was Christmas, so they had a Christmas nativity scene. So, and then you can, from the image right now, you can see the Virgin, Our Lady of Remedies. That's her up there. For those of you who can see it. So we're just kind of walking through here, and I'm just getting some good shots. There's an upstairs shot, and the Catholic Church. And as we're kind of watching the end of this footage, I'm just going to kind of talk about it. The church itself was intentionally situated on top of Cholula, and funny enough, the Cortez and then later the Spaniards that came there. Obviously, you guys know that there was the Christianization of Mexico, just like there is many other places, right? Funny enough, they didn't even know that Cholula was a pyramid. They had no idea. So they just built it on top of there, and they were like, yeah, we're going to build it on this hill and show these savages who's boss. And the savages were like, cool. We can't do anything about it because you guys have already conquered us, but you didn't find our sacred site, which is actually intentional. What their intention was with that place. It's kind of crazy. So that is kind of what it looks like on the inside there, and then I will be editing here in for the visual portion. You'll be able to see these images coming up, and just as I'm talking and stuff, and you don't have to worry about it right now because I'm going to edit all this good jazz out. So that kind of is the feel for what we're looking at as far as the church itself goes, and the pyramid underneath. So the pyramid is a very kind of complex structure because it was really built upon over. Shoot, man! I mean the Acropolis itself, which is the tippy top or was the tippy top of the pyramid, is a mixture of pre and post. It was like just mixed with all the pre-classical time, which again we're talking before 1500 BC or around 1500 BC, all the way up to good night. I mean, who knows, 1400 AD. So we're talking about like a 3-year span of different type of blocks, and the reason that they know that these were all mixed up is because they some were specifically like materials that were used in pre-classic, and then others were post-classic. So they were just mixing all sorts of stuff, and you got to ask yourself, like, what in the world were they doing? It's kind of crazy. Was one conquered, and then they just started building on top of it, and then kind of same idea. That certainly seems to be the case, and I guess we can get into at this point kind of why Cholula was one a reason that I chose it. To be honest, I found out about this pyramid in in watching the Netflix special with Graham Hancock, and he actually went to Cholula and talked about it and everything. And I was like, dude, I'm like 2 hours away from there. Why would I not go? Like, what the heck? So I did, and I went with my brother-in-law and my kiddo. My kiddo was probably very happy. He was going to go watch some kids movie, and he's like, I'm like 12, Dad. I don't want to watch that lame movie. I was like, well, then let's go film the pyramids. And he was like, really? Like, yeah, you can film for me, dude. So he did. So there are some really interesting aspects about this particular spot. It was not a military spot by any means, but it was a mercantile area, highly, highly mercantile, and highly, highly religious. There's back and forths about, which was first, Cholula or Teotihuacan. Teotihuacan obviously is the one that everybody knows in Mexico, about Mexico. That one or Chichen Itza, right? One of those two sets of pyramids. Those are the ones that are like, I gotta go see them. And those are cool. Don't get me wrong. And they have their significances and all that stuff. But Teotihuacan, when basically like Cholula became the fallback when Teotihuacan was annihilated basically by the Spanish. And even when it wasn't the focal point, and this we're talking about later in history, at least that we know of, as far as before this pre-classic period. And when I say pre-classic, again, I'm talking about 1500 BC forward. But what I'm particularly interested in is, a lot of these ideas or these practices going back to before that, which would be, pre-Columbian. I mean, just like not even necessarily pre-Hispanic. We're talking about like pre-Columbian, before these Hispanic peoples were there.
Right.
Pre-Hispanic peoples were there. Excuse me. So the reason that this was such an important spot was because Quetzalcoatl, which is really who we're talking about today, kind of moving away from the pyramid itself and kind of why it's so important. Quetzalcoatl is a serpent / bird-like creature. It sounds like a dragon.
The feathered snake, right? It totally. That's what I've always thought.
Plumed serpent. That's what it goes with. Now, Teotihuacan which is the Mexico City pyramid again. Last time I'm going to say it. Teotihuacan is really where Quetzalcoatl's worship was concentrated for a long time. But the curious thing about Cholula, and most Mexicans don't even really appreciate it. They're just like, oh, that's cool, and they don't think anything of it. And I'm like, you guys have a crazy hidden gem right there in front of you guys. Is that it was really kind of the initiation point for Mesoamerica. Obviously, a little later in Mexican history, but people we're talking like Mayans, we're talking like Tlaxcaltecas, which were another tribal group from the area, Nahuas, which are basically Mexicas, which are just from that kind of general area. Whenever they would want a lord to be established as a reigning authority, they would go to Cholula and they would do a specific ritual for them to be confirmed by the priests of Quetzalcoatl there in Cholula. So many times they would do these massive, just very lavish pilgrimages where they would bring huge sacrifices to Quetzalcoatl there in Cholula. They would fast for 4 days, and then I think they would drink a particular substance called pulque. I may be wrong about that. I can't remember if that was part of it or not. I know that pulque is super important for other things. But then they were confirmed, and they had either their lip or their earlobe or
their nose,
the nose pierced. And that was to signify that they were, of higher status now, and that they were approved.
They had been consecrated.
Correct, theocratically, right? Because in a city, well, and really in Mesoamerica, religion and politics were hand in hand. It wasn't really like you had a choice. It was certainly not like the Western world. And so, and even part of this procession is once they were confirmed, 5 priests from Cholula, Quetzalcoatl's priests, would go with them back to their village or their town or whatever we're calling it to confirm that indeed they had been confirmed and affirmed as a legitimate ruler for Quetzalcoatl. Okay, so this held some serious weight, some very serious weight. Now we should talk about Quetzalcoatl. Not a little bit, a lot of it, because there's a lot here.
There's a lot.
There's a lot here. I'm going to try and cover as much as I possibly humanly can to give you guys kind of a scope. When Cholula was a big deal, because when the Spanish actually came, they compared Cholula to Rome for the Christians or Mecca for the Muslims. It was a massive site. It was a massive holy site for them. And they were kind of blown away because they saw this whole interaction between the priests, between, the confirmations, between the way different, in fact, Cholula was a kind of a weird place because it had a bunch of different tribes that were all kind of interacting. And it was kind of a, what would we call it? City of refuge. Any biblical ideas coming in there? Yeah, I'm sure there should be, right?
Right.
Not for the same reasons, I'm sure, but definitely a city of refuge. And it was actually when a lot of people from Tenochtitlán got their whole city taken over, that was their fallback, and that became the new Mecca site, but already had huge spiritual significance there. Now, coming into Quetzalcoatl here a little bit. Now, Quetzalcoatl, obviously we know, is a plumed serpent, right? But there's some very interesting aspects that he has. And we're going to start, I guess, with the Venus connection. Yeah, Shell?
Yep, good place.
I think that's about the easiest one. So Quetzalcoatl had different manifestations, which should be throwing up red flares everywhere, red flags everywhere, excuse me. Flares as well, I'm sure, that were very bright. He was actually called, and I'm going to butcher this because, my Nahuatl's not super great. Sorry, guys. Tlahuizcalpan Tecutli. Tlahuizcalpan Tecutli. That was pretty good. Okay. Now, Tlahuizcalpan Tecutli.
Great as far as I'm concerned.
Actually means, literally broken down, means Tlahuizcalli means splendor of the dawn. Pan means place of, and Tecutli means Lord. So if you break this down, it literally means the Lord of splendor of the dawn. Now,
Hillel ben Shakur.
It's about to get interesting. Hillel ben Shakur. Do you remember? And is that the Isaiah passage, Shell?
Yeah, Isaiah 12.
Isaiah 12. Okay. Shell and I had to read several. I have read, I don't know how many books on this stinking freaking Quetzalcoatl subject at this point. I have read a lot of stuff.
There's serpent, there's divine serpent lore everywhere from Genesis to Revelation, the Vedic texts, probably pretty much every ancient text, the legend of Gilgamesh, or the Epic of Gilgamesh,
Chinese and the dragon.
Gosh, it's even in Beowulf. If you have been unfortunate enough to have to read that lovely book a time or two, don't watch the movie. Trust me.
Read it for yourself.
It's so bad. The book is not much easier, especially if you read it in Middle English. It's hard, but I mean, it's
all
the serpent is everywhere, from Genesis 3:15 on.
Yeah.
The serpent and the seed.
And we shout out to Justin from the Prometheus lines that suggested a book to us. Not my favorite book, not gonna lie, but it did have the information I needed, so I'll take it. And I read through the whole thing, kept hoping it's gonna get better. And I was like, this is not getting better, and it got worse. I think by the end of it.
I'm only 65% of the way through, and I was like, I'm gonna skim through and read some more while I'm eating, and I was like, oh, I'm not. I'm gonna read The Fallen instead and enjoy what I'm reading.
You can check it out for yourself, or you can just take my word for it. Really, what I gleaned from it was enough, and I could have probably stopped reading after like the first 2 or 3 chapters. It was called Deconstructing Lucifer, but nonetheless, lots of good information there. There's a huge connection to what we commonly call, and Shell and I have talked at great length about this, as far as linguistics goes, and as far as etymology and just being precise with words. Shelley and I, huge disclaimer here, guys. We are not super convinced that there is a Satan, like a single Satan.
Right.
Satan is just like Lucifer, is a catch-all phrase. And literally, Hillel ben Shakur is where we get Lucifer from. It's, the bringer of the dawn.
Right. The Latinization of
correct.
the name.
Correct.
instead of son of the morning or bringer of the morning, which is what Hillel ben Shakur is. By the way, I said Isaiah 12, and I'm sorry, it's Isaiah 14, starting
14.
at verse 12.
As soon as you said 12, I was like, I think it's 14. But like right now,
Yeah.
you said 12. I was like, I think it's 14. So there, this book, really what I want to get to the heart of is Lucifer, yes, like Shell says, is the light bearer, right? That's what it really comes down to. But the ancients, and particularly, we're relying here on the Greeks and the Septuagint, okay? And if you don't know what the Septuagint is, just break it down super quick for you. It was a translation that was commissioned by, I'm going to forget off the top of my head who it was commissioned by, but was commissioned by a high-ranking official in Roman. Do you remember, Shell? Do you know who I'm talking about?
No, I think it's actually maybe before that, but Septuagint means the 70.
Yes,
because
and there were 70 translators.
They all worked independently and came up with
the exact freaking
exactly
same
the
translation.
same.
So,
Yeah.
The important thing here is, how was Hillel ben Shakur translated? And it was translated as, there's two types of translations that they in theory could have used. Okay, one was Heosporos or Heosphoros. I'm not sure how to say it because it's Greek. I don't really know. And the other one is Hesperos. Oh, hey, look at that! I can see the Spanish in that, or the Latin. That's interesting. So Heosperos means the morning star, and Hesperos means the evening star. Okay, which is interesting because for evening in Spanish we say vespertino or vesperos, right? Which means the evening, and it sounds a lot like Hesperos, vespertino.
Well,
Yeah.
and Vespers is what it is in Latin.
Oh,
That's
okay.
why there are the Vespers, the evening prayers, right?
Right. Oh, right on. Okay. Oraciones vespertinas. Okay, that makes sense. Okay, fair enough. Evening prayers. Sorry, just talking in Spanish, guys. Forgive me. This is a very Spanish-heavy subject for me, and Nahuatl-heavy subject, so I'm saying everything in Spanish. But the Septuagint translators went with the option of Heosphoros, which is morning star. Okay. Now, this is significant, and I want to break this down real quick because it is very interesting. There are only two other places besides Isaiah 14 where this word Hallel appears, and it's kind of a kind of flip of the coin on how this was translated. Well, not how it was translated. Sorry, that's a bad way to say it. A flip of the coin on how the decision was made for Hallel being light versus a different word, and the other potential translation.
Shining.
Right, shining. But the other potential translation is howl or howling.
Yeah, howler.
So yeah, exactly. But they I mean, 70 different people independently working from each other to come up and still say light bearer, or son of the morning. To me, that is pretty clear. So why are we going over all these fancy schmancy etymological fun breakdowns? Well, there's a very good reason, because the Hesperos actually refers to Venus, the planet Venus. Venus is the shining star that appears before the dawn, so it appears to pull the sun out in the morning, to pull it out, and the Hesperos is the one that follows, right, at the sunset that comes down afterward. Well, these guys decided to go with Hesperos, and if they went with Hesperos, then I'm going to say that Hillel ben Shakur probably means son of the morning. Even though many church fathers said that howl was actually probably the better translation. But almost nobody went with that, which I think is very interesting.
Because the other place that it's mentioned in the word is in Job, when all the morning stars sang together.
Yep.
At the joy of God's creation. So I think that going off of the good hermeneutics.
Hermeneutics.
Gird hermeneutics.
Gird hermeneutics.
Gird.
Hear me, gird.
you want the Bible to define itself.
Yeah, you sure do. That's exactly right.
And so that's what you do. You look for where else is this used? How is it used? How it can, just like you did in second grade when your teacher gave you your spelling / vocabulary words and made you figure it out from its use.
Yeah.
Same premise. The Bible defines itself, and when you start going and letting outside sources define the Bible, well, that's how you get to American Christianity or 21st century Western Christianity.
Yeah. So let's see here. Where do I want to go with this from a Quetzalcoatl perspective? Oh yes. So I had a fun time looking up some very interesting things. One thing I did want to mention, another reason Cholula was, just to give you guys an idea of the scope of Cholula's influence, and why Quetzalcoatl worship was so large here. Like, obviously Quetzalcoatl was a prime feature, was a prime time individual that had to do with all this bad boy. And was really, because it was, that's what Cholula was. Cholula was a Quetzalcoatl worshiping site. That's precisely what it was. That was where there was obviously other patron gods and stuff like that. But Cholula itself was for worship for Quetzalcoatl. Now, to give you guys a notion of this, so if you're going, like, I guess, from where I'm at in Austin, a drive from here to Mexico City is about 20 hours. So it's like about as far as going to Florida for me, which is freaking far. But to give you an idea, so you drive maybe another hour and a half or so to Cholula. So it's about 21 hours or so. But Cholula had influence, obviously, all the way up, super up north, right? Because, there's lots of Mesoamericans there. But also, it went as far down to reach as El Salvador, which is crazy far. Crazy far. So there was some serious worship of this deity. Now, coming back to this, because Venus was seen as Quetzalcoatl, which is another iteration of this individual. It was Quetzalcoatl and Xólotl. Okay, Xólotl. What am I getting at? Xólotl and Quetzalcoatl in ancient Mesoamerican lore, or in pre-Hispanic lore, I should say, was a different iteration of the same deity. Okay. Now, this is where it gets interesting, because although Quetzalcoatl is associated with the morning star, which we very well know as Xólotl ben Shakur, which is traditionally what we refer to as Satan, right? Or, the enemy. We'll just keep it the accuser. It's easy enough. Although Shelley and I, again, believe that there are many accusers, and that's kind of that's like a $5 word. You can just kind of throw it out anywhere you want. We don't treat it that way in American culture, but that's really, that's the original context. Quetzalcoatl was the one that showed up in the dawn, but the one that showed up in the evening was his twin brother, Xólotl. Sorry. Now, here's where it gets interesting, guys. In the lore here, I don't know if we're going to call it lore, maybe we just call it a myth, frankly.
Those are synonyms.
Well, I feel like myth means something different to people now than it actually means. You know what I mean?
I do know what you mean. But really, a myth and lore are pretty much the same thing. They're both stories that may or may not have
I guess that's fair. Yeah,
substance to them. Historicity.
I guess what I'm getting at is, like, whether or not it's true or not is not really part of the myth. I guess that's kind of what I'm, shooting at. But we'll say in the belief system, or at least in the oral tradition. And frankly, in the Mayan case, written tradition, which is Kukulkan, right? Kukulkan is the same thing as Quetzalcoatl. It's the same entity. It's just a different name for the same dude. And there's a little bit of variation within, certain rituals or certain ideas and certain practices, but generally we're talking about the same exact entity. Well, Quetzalcoatl was for the morning, but he was also related to the heavens because he had wings. He could fly, okay? But because he was a serpent and he could change into Xólotl, which had to do with the underworld and the earth, he could also go, have influence here on the earth, but also in the underworld. He had access to the underworld. So he had access to all three places. Does that sound like anyone you might know? Now get this. This is where it gets interesting. I'm going to have to pull this up real quick because I find it, frankly, a little too compelling not to share with you guys. The Aztecs, unlike the Mayans, which I think the Mayans probably also did too, but the Aztecs especially, were very specific about their history, but they didn't have written history. They didn't have written language history is a better way to say that. So what they had is something called codexes, okay? And let's see, Cholula photos, there we go. Oh, look, it's going to let me. Haha. Let's see if it'll let me do what I want to do. No, it's not, is it? Okay, let's see. Let's see if it'll let me do something else. It's all good. I'll just edit this. Screenshot. Is that what I'm like? Yeah, here we go. That's what I want to see right there.
The codex.
Yes, this is the codex. Okay. These guys right here are is that pretty clear? Do you need me to get a little closer?
It's pretty decent if you can.
Whoa.
Oh, that's good. No, it was good when you got it closer. Yep.
Good? Okay. Oh, that's awesome.
Oh, that's the jade frog. That's where it is. Huh.
So these dudes right here, this guy and this guy, are the two priests in Cholula. Okay. So these guys were really the governing body, and as you can see, they don't like wearing clothes very much, but hey, there they are.
You know what? I'm sure it's hot.
It actually is a wonderful climate, frankly. It's not cold or hot. It's like great. But this
they're like,
guy
we
right
don't need to cover up much.
Right.
Working on their tan.
Right. I mean, they were much more tan and probably healthier than you and I. So this guy right here is actually representative of Cholula. Now, I don't remember quite how old this is. Chichimeca, Tolteca,
1594.
I'm hoping it's actually older than that.
I thought I had read.
I'm not gonna remember off the top of my head. Anyway, the lore here is interesting because this just kind of looks weird, right? You're like, oh, okay, what is this? Well, this guy is supposed to be Cholula. This is supposed to be the pyramid, okay? But then this guy right here is supposed to be a sacred spring. Yes, you heard me right. A sacred spring that runs under the pyramid of Cholula. Okay, here we go with the rabbit hole. I came to this conclusion all by my lonesome. Nobody helped me. I was there on site when I was like, oh, we've not been to the foundations of Cholula. Oh, no one can go to the foundations of Cholula. Oh, well, that changes everything. Everything. Why does that change everything? Because if we don't know what's at the foundations, it's very likely they are megalithic in nature. Why is this my supposition? Well, because most pyramids are megalithic, frankly, okay, or they have at least some remnant of megalithicness. You like that word? Megalithicality. Left over, right? There's
Megalithic-ness.
Megalithic-ness.
Let's go with
But
megalithic-ness.
So what makes a site very what's the word, Shell? Iconic about being megalithic is that there is water. There is always frickin' water there. And the moment
Right.
that I saw this codex, even before I got to Mexico, I went, oh, holy crap, there's water there. I was like, wow, that'd be interesting if it were megalithic. But I didn't know that we hadn't been to the foundations before I went. And if I hadn't talked to this chick that was just randomly there and had been there before and who was a history buff, I think she studied history in college. It's funny enough, I started talking to her in Spanish and she goes, and I go, yeah, I don't know the area. I'm not from here. I'm not Mexican. I'm like, don't know if you noticed, look at my face. And she goes, well, actually, I'm not from here either. I'm not a Mexican citizen. I go, you're not? She goes, no. She goes, I'm from, I think they're from Houston, she told me. And I'm like, really? She's like, yeah. I was like, well, how do you know all this history? She's like, well, I've been here before, and I've also, I'm a history buff. I studied history, and I was like, really? Whole conversation in Spanish, by the way. I wasn't, it was because you don't know, you just assume people only speak Spanish, so you talk to them in Spanish. And she goes, yeah, I'm just really interested in it. And then she started telling me, and I said, well, yeah, so, okay, you got to go into the tunnels, right? She goes, yeah, we sure did 6 years ago when we came. Oh, very cool. And did you get to go, how far did you get to go down? Because I know that some of the places are gated off, right? They're restricted. And she goes, yeah, you only got to go like one sub-level down. It's kind of cold. And she's like, you'd probably be uncomfortable because they're tiny and you're huge. And she says, but we haven't been able to, like, we couldn't go down to the bottom. And I was like, yeah, that's a bummer, man. That'd be so cool. I wish I could get to see it. She's like, yeah, nobody knows what's down there. And I go, what do you mean? And that's when she said, yeah, well, no one's been down there. And that's when the whole conversation ensued, that not even archaeologists have been down there because they're afraid that the structure itself will collapse on itself. But that also, that could be very well true. Maybe that is true. But also simultaneously, I think they are. I think that it's a megalithic base. Let's just say that. I
they
can't
don't
really
want it to be discovered or uncovered.
Right. Maybe that's what it is. I don't know that for sure, but the presence of water makes me highly suspicious of that. Very, very suspicious. And the fact that they don't know what the bottom is. Like, come on. You know what I mean? Go ahead,
It's like the Egyptian pyramids that they're like, you guys built those, right? And they're like, no, they were here when we got here, but we'll take credit. Sure.
And Shell mentioned something really interesting. See this guy right here? And Shell was like, that's a portal. And I'm like, yeah, it does
looks like a portal to me, like 1,000%.
But you know what this actually is a conch shell. And I didn't know this, but conch shells have some sort of association to the underworld for them. And I was like, well, maybe it's a portal key. If it's not a portal, it might be a portal key.
But you know what? There's was it Timothy Alberino? I think he was when he was on Blurry, and they were talking about the Viracocha, and the conch in the underground tunnels in, is it the Andes Mountains?
Oh yeah. Up in the Andes.
It's something about the lore. I've only heard the lore one time, so I don't know it well enough. I really, really, really want to look into that more because it seems like the Mesoamericans like brought Cortez in thinking he was either Quetzalcoatl or the Viracocha.
Yeah.
And Viracocha. As I would say,
hey, man.
I wasn't trying to say it right. My poor husband gets so tired of listening to me try. No, babe, listen like this. And I'm like, no. The way I'm hearing it, honey, is Quetzalcoatl.
You know how to say it now, right?
Huh?
You know how to say it though, right? Properly now.
Yes, I do, because I have a
Once
cheat
you go,
sheet, and
I
it's
made
Quetzalcoatl.
good job. See, I made a cheat sheet for Shell. I made
He
phonetic
he
guide.
did, and it helped. I still have to consciously think about it. It's one of those words that it's like listening to people say Göbekli Tepe. They have the hardest time with that.
It's like, yeah. Well, it's just think of it this way. You can say Quetzal, and then you can just instead of saying cattle, because you could say Quetzalcoatl, but you could just put an O in there. Quetzalcoatl. There you go. That's it.
It
But
really is. I see coat. I see
I know,
COAT, and
I
I
know.
think in
And I
my happy
realized that
little head
today
coat.
or yesterday. I realized that I was like, oh, she's saying the word coat. That's why she
Yep.
keeps messing it up.
Yep. That's
Um,
exactly. And I'm throwing an L at the end. Codal.
Quetzalcoatl.
Codal. Hee
Um,
hoo.
so yes, that is a large portion of Quetzalcoatl. But the cool thing again, and here, let me pull this guy back up.
By the
That'll be
way,
changed.
I just
What's
want
up?
you to know I was right about the date on that.
Which one, dude?
It is 16th century, that codex.
Oh, okay. Well, and that makes it complicated, right? Because that is post Hispanic.
So that's more when it was found, not when it was
Oh,
made.
okay. Gotcha. Because, well,
Um,
and I'm almost going to guarantee you that it was found by some
doesn't matter
Franciscan.
who it was found by, it was
Oh,
given
no,
to,
it
you
doesn't
know,
matter because it would have been burned if it weren't a Franciscan priest. Like they were the only. Honestly,
only ones willing to.
engage. Sam was actually really breaking this down for me. He's like, no, dude. He's like, how much you want to bet that there's some sort of Franciscan priest, this or that? And sure enough, it was,
Oh,
some sort
praise
of
God
Franciscan priest.
for men who are smart enough to
Well,
understand that historical documents are
well,
priceless.
and also they were really trying to share the gospel. They weren't trying to force the gospel on people. Like I read about how Cortez got. I never really realized how insane this dude was. He was off his rocker because he literally had no more money to fund his endeavor, and so he
He really
just
believed in
decided.
those cities of gold, man.
Oh, sure, absolutely, because they told him about it. But he, when he got on the boat, there was an armament of men that were there to stop him from leaving, and he just like basically like kicked them off the side of the dock or killed them and like jumped on the boat and was like, screw you, I'm leaving anyway, and he did. um yeah, crazy dude.
Yeah.
um so
Well, I
anyway,
mean,
oh, sorry, Shell, go ahead.
no, I was just gonna say, being on a boat for a long amount of time just might do your head in.
Yeah, well, um here, this is what I wanted to show you guys real quick here. Actually, let's not do that. Let's do just the regular one, and then we'll add it. Okay. So the last thing I want to mention about this kind of image here is that because Quetzalcoatl is a serpent, a plumed serpent, he can go down into the underworld, and we have talked about this on previous episodes. Water is a portal. Water is absolutely a portal. When I saw this, and then I realized it was megalithic, and then I read that Quetzalcoatl could go under the earth, he could go on the earth, and he could go above the earth. I went, holy cow! It's like watching this entity in Isaiah 14, like
Right.
live
And
out
just
some
to
sort of
whet your appetite, the whole Euphrates thing
uh-huh.
and the caverns, the cave systems that they're finding as the Euphrates dries up, and the um there's a really prevalent belief that that is where Tartarus is. That is where the angels that sinned are held in chains of gloomy darkness, as the book of
Yep.
Jude describes it, as Peter describes it as well. So it's just this the Sumerian oh gosh, old Sumerian lore. Sorry, I can't think of what epic it is. It has to do with Enki and Eridu.
Is it
It's
the Epic of Gilgamesh?
it's not Gilgamesh. Although Gilgamesh features in it, it's ancient Sumerian, like some of the oldest written stories that we have found. They're Sumerian. The lore of Babel is that it's in, I think it's Uruk, which is in the southernmost part of Iraq, which is really where Iraq gets its name from, Uruk, Iraq. But the Nimrod or Marduk or what are all I can't even think of all the iterations of Nimrod right now. And I know we talked about this back in our Babel and Nimrod episodes.
Yeah, God mortal or immortal or whatever, something like that.
Right. But also they built the Tower of Babel, that ziggurat, over the abyss.
Yes.
Which also
Correct.
happened to be a river. So
of course it was.
So all those aspects just like keep coming up, and it's crazy because I don't even like go, oh, here's the list, check it off. It's like you're doing these things and then you're like, oh my gosh, there's flowing water underneath it. Look at this codex shell. And then I'm like, oh, but that's like
all
the Sumerian lore. It's exactly the same. And I mean, it is. And it's just,
it's everywhere.
When it is everywhere. Oh my goodness gracious.
You're not even trying to, you're not trying to make the conspiracy.
Not looking for connections, yo.
They just jump out at you. You're just like, well, freaking A, like, what do I even do with this? Like,
right.
Shelly and I were talking about this actually during the week, and Shelly was like, that's like Sumerian lore, and I was like, yeah, it's like Sumerian myth. It's exactly what it is. And I commented to Shelly, I go, it makes a lot of sense why so many secret societies want to cover this kind of stuff up, because it's so obvious. It is so obvious. We are the only ones in history that are not privy to all this information. We're the only ones that get dumbed down to like beast type animals because we don't know anything about this stuff, but they do.
Well, and it's because it's like we have access to all of the information in theory that mankind has, via the internet, yet we're the most ignorant we have been since the Dark Ages. It's just, I don't know.
Yeah, I know, man. It's crazy.
By the way, to your point about secret societies hiding this stuff away, did you know that Hitler, when he went into and he probably started in Germany, he immediately shut down and took all of the archives, everything in the Freemason lodges.
I do know that. I did
not know that, and I've always been so interested in him and the lore, and today something came up and I was like, oh, that makes sense.
That's funny that you both you and I found that out yesterday. That's kind of crazy.
It is. Well, and eventually, our goal is to get into Hitler and the occult and what he was trying to seek out. So,
yeah, we actually do want to do a whole series on that, as a matter of
Oh
fact.
my gosh, because there's so much. And then that'll take us right back to Antarctica.
It will indeed, man. Hold on one
So
second.
everybody can lose their mind all over again.
It's crazy stuff. Where is this stupid thing? I just had it, man. Sorry, I want to edit this out here in a little bit because it's obnoxious. I just really kind of want to leave you guys with some photos here, for you guys to be able to see, because these are really, really impactful. Kind of, they just give you a good idea of what's going on. The first photo, well, there's not a whole lot of them. I'm going to add some of these in, but and they might just be like a stretch of just images. So, but I just want to show you what these guys look like. Share screen. Is this the? Yeah, that's the one I want. Okay, so this here is actually the ruins of the pyramid itself, and you can see all these weird different layers. If you notice, there's all these different colors here, and that kind of really lends to kind of an understanding of just how, see, these are different, just how, and that is too, how many different tribes were here and were constantly coming back to worship this god over and over and over and over. It's very fascinating. It's kind of mind-boggling, as a matter of fact.
Rick, at the top of the page in the center, is that where the church is up there?
Right here. Yep. This is
so all of that from what we're seeing, and this has got to be like the middle of the complex, it looks like, all the way up to that peak.
Yeah.
That's all pyramid.
I'll find a good photo for you guys here and put it up there. But I also wanted to show you guys this on the way home, which we looked at, which is really cool. Let's get this guy off stage. Add this other guy. Check this out. This is just beautiful. So this right here is Popocatépetl, and if you notice, I don't know if you can see it, but this is interesting, because when we're in Mexico City, we see the other side of this volcano. This is one of the few, well, not few. This is one of the volcanoes in Mexico City, and then somewhere over here, I can't remember exactly where, there's another volcano called Iztaccihuatl, and those both are like basically part of lore in the Romeo Juliet, basically Aztec version of that. Just wanted to show you guys those pictures. They're really beautiful. They are. I felt like I was in Europe watching this stuff. I was like, I was just.
Well, and wasn't Cholula supposed to mirror one of the volcanoes close by? Is it that one?
I don't know if it was supposed to or not, but it likely is a candidate. There is another one, in fact, that is in Tlaxcala, and there's some really cool stuff about that there. It was well, I mean, I can share that real quick. But it was I
obviously have to get
a celebration of 4 different mountains. Among those were the 2 volcanoes that you just showed you. One was called well, they call it La Malinche now, but it was Tlaxcala, which I think was called Matryoshka. Say that 5 times fast.
I can't say it one time.
And there's a bunch of other stuff. Yeah, a bunch of other stuff regarding that. But yes, they were all made to mirror volcanoes, and they were sacred places. We've talked about this, guys. We've talked about this stuff. These mountains were sacred places to them. And actually, that one, La Malinche, the one that's there in Tlaxcala, which I won't bore you guys with tons and tons of history. If you're behind the paywall, I will. But if you're not, basically, just know that mountain is sacred. And I heard some crazy stories, like the metal pastor that we had this interview with, that I got to have this interview with. He told me that he had read one time that a group of the Tlaxcaltecas, which are, we'll just call them rivals, and kind of instigated a lot of the goings on and a lot of the destruction of Cholula, and I mean, they were instrumental in handing Cortez Cholula, basically. And they are very hated as a result, because, you know, that kind of crumbled the empire. Well, they have a sacred mountain there. And he told me of a story where they basically went up that mountain praying to God. God. Not Tlaloc, not Quetzalcoatl, not any of these, you know, other gods. Like, apparently they were going up praying to this god, and it was a very normal thing for them to go up and do like a ritual prayer for fertility and things like that. And so this was a regular thing, but this was a one-off. This is a one-off that they would go and they would. It's basically like something like praying to the unknown god, something like that. Very cool, very, very interesting stuff. There's just sacred stuff all over the place, man, and we just don't appreciate it, and we just don't think about it, and we don't realize how important it is. We live in this modern, you know, 9 to 5. My computer's broken. I need to get it fixed so that I don't, you know, lose contact with the world. But that's, geez, it's just not. It's not where it's at. Guys, on continuation, I think I'm actually, you know, I'm good here. This is really what I wanted to cover for you guys. Oh, I do. That's right. I do want to show these real quick. These are really cool, and this is super important. We had talked about. This is my last thing that I want to cover. If Shell wants to cover anything else, that's fine. But then we're just going to go behind the paywall after this. I'm impressed. We're getting through this very fast, and that's awesome. I'm cutting out a crap ton of stuff, but. That's for
there's Google's, and people can fly down to Mexico City if they want.
Yes. So check this out. This, what I'm about to show you guys, and let me kind of preface it first. There is like I said, that there were two priests that were mainly the ones that, you know, mediated things in Cholula. Okay. Interestingly enough, in what has been uncovered, there are what they call altars there. And I'm going to show you those right now. Check it out. I don't know if you guys can hear that in the background. I'll play it again. That is people clapping in the middle of this square between all these altars, which I'll show you the rest of in a moment. And as you can hear them, they're clapping, and there's this weird acoustic thing going on. It almost sounds like a duck.
Reverberation. Yeah.
Okay, that's one. I think that's the one to the west or to the east. I can't remember which side it's on. Check this one out. I'll play it one more time. You can probably hear that. It's all the resonance there. And if you notice, if you look at these, what we're looking at, guys, they basically look like stone. I mean, they're stone slabs, but they basically look like gravestones, giant gravestones with
headstones, yeah.
With a base. And on these bases, there are some ornate drawings. Interestingly enough, these altars look like portal doors. They really do. Which I had not thought of until just now, actually. But all those markings that you see on here, they're very kind of wavy and everything. These were all intended to represent Quetzalcoatl. Okay, there's that one in the middle again. And then we get to the last one. This guy right here. This one has, what we're looking at is there's basically one in front, so you can imagine it. It's not these directions, but it's basically north, west, and east is what it looks like. So it's one in front of you, one to the left of you, one to the right of you. And behind them, actually, which is not here, you know, I might put some pictures up, is a sacrificial area in which they actually found a woman who had cranial adjustments. So keep that in mind, guys. And her jaw removed. Which the jaw had some very specific spiritual significance, which I'm not going to get into here. It's not what we're really talking about today. But yeah, sure enough, you can actually see Quetzalcoatl on this third third altar, which is to the left of the other two. And there's no headstone to it, which I thought was absolutely fascinating. Well, these are not altars. These are thrones. And when I realized reading back through the book I'd read through, because I read it and then went to the site and then I read it again just to kind of brush up, and I went, oh, these are not altars, these are thrones. Holy cow. That makes me question, and granted, I'm assuming that this one also did have a headstone. I don't know that. But I believe that it was destroyed like by the Las Caltecas or the Chichimecas. I can't remember who destroyed it, but somebody came in and destroyed the headstone. What looks like
Does the base look the same? Because to me, that looks much bigger and like a big old like table. I could see this being an altar, and the other one really, it really does look like plinths.
I know.
I mean,
and if you look at this one here that looks kind of like a pointed headstone, if you notice kind of at the base of it to the, from what we're looking at from the left and kind of going downward all the way through it, it clearly was broken. So this thing was knocked over and they reconstructed it so you could look at it. And you can see the same thing here. This one was torn down as well.
Can't you just see a big statue?
Oh, sure.
Right there. Like,
sure.
That's what it seems like to me. Like I look at it and...
Or a throne for that matter. And
a throne where somebody stands, though, it looks, oh, well, maybe not. I was going to say it looks very short to sit upon, but the other one doesn't look short. That one just did, but it could just be the view. Yeah,
it might be. And then again, this one that's clearly has images of Quetzalcoatl. It's not just, ornate. It's clearly like serpent heads. You can see them on there.
Can you zoom that one in, Rick? Because you zoomed it for me the other day when we were looking, and like when it zooms in, you really see the serpents.
Here, let's see if it'll let me right here. Full screen. No. Hold on. Let's try and do that real quick. What's this labeled? I gotta find it. Hang on. It's okay. It's the wonder of editing. Yay.
Right.
I've got to edit so many things anyway. No, that's not what I'm looking for. Hang on. Oh, here we go. Okay, here it is. All right, cool. So let's just add that from the stage here. Here, I'm going to remove this guy. And then do this. Share screen. That's what we want right there. Okay. Is that any bigger?
Nope.
It's the same size. Okay, hang on.
It is.
Let's see if it'll let me get bigger. Doggone it. Okay, hang on. Playback speed, file, view. Here we go. Zoom in. There we go.
Better. That's perfect. You can see so clearly.
See, that's very clearly.
At least on a computer. If somebody's watching us on their phone, they may not see it that well. Sorry, guys.
I can zoom in a little more. Let's see. Just get a good look at it. Zoom in just a bit more.
Yeah.
It's grainy, but you can see it at least.
You can like really see it. You can see that there are two snake heads facing away from one another.
Yep, they sure are. Right in the center. And what I wanted to drive home about this, I'll probably include some more footage of this, where you guys can listen to the noise that was there, because it was really it's very weird. It's a very bizarre sound. But we have talked about, actually we have not talked about this, but we've been meaning to talk about the resonance that's associated with sites like this.
Right.
It's a huge component, and I kept asking myself, I was like, where is that other headstone? That other headstone has to, I can't imagine what it sounds like and what happened when all three of those were there, if there was one. I don't know, but it sure seems like there was one. And
right.
So, yeah, man. That's it for me, Shell. We can cut it loose. Oh, by the way, just so you guys know, if you're interested and you want to follow after this, we will be talking about the connection between Quetzalcoatl and Mormonism. Yes.
The LDS Church.
You heard me right. So if you want to check that out, and some other interesting data about the site and everything. Stick around, and we will be sharing that with you guys if you want to go behind the paywall. Chell, anything else you wanted to add?
No, I have nothing else for this part.
Cool. Well, we want to bless you guys. I'm going to let Shell do that because I have talked a crap ton. And then we'll let you guys loose.
Absolutely. The Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord make his face shine upon you. The Lord be gracious to you and turn his countenance towards you. And the Lord give you peace. Shalom, shalom.
Amen.
Blessings, guys.
God bless you guys. And as always, Maranatha.
Maranatha.
Thank you for watching this episode of The Christian Theological Dark Web. For questions or comments, please email us at thechristiantheologicaldarkweb@gmail.com. If you'd like to support us, please look for the Patreon link in the description. This has been another production of CTDW Studios. Thank you, and God bless.